the point that we have now reached is that Iran has, I think, a great number of Iranian leadership, not all of them, have realized that the path they have gone has cost Iran an enormous amount. It is a remarkable story how much Iran has so far paid for this rather outmoded technology. To enrich uranium, folks, at 5 or 90% is 1940s technology. Literally 1940s. It is like Iran is investing its entire scientific future on learning how to make Model Ts now. You might say, we're beating the United States, we are making our own Model T. Yes, but you're forfeiting the future of the Iranian economy. What do you get in response? Iranian engineers now have to go to Malaysia rather than Stanford and MIT to learn some of the technologies that might have remotely anything to do with the nuclear technology, because there's an embargo against them in the West. The direct and indirect cost of this nuclear program, 50 years into the making, that hasn't yet produced 1 megawatt of energy, is staggering. I can give you some of the figures, some of the direct and indirect costs. And as an Iranian, it brings, every time, it brings tears to my eyes to think that this is what the country has done for virtually no gain. So enough of Iranians, I think, have recognized that the path they've gone on hasn't really benefited them much. They're trying to see whether they can find a compromise. What brought them, in my view, to the negotiating table is first and foremost the sanctions. The sanctions have hurt the Iranian economy, don't have any doubt about it. And they have hurt the Iranian economy the only way that hurts the clergy. The clergy are interested in the bottom line. The bottom line of Iran is oil. They haven't been able to sell oil and gas. Again, to give you a sense of comparison, Iran used to sell 6 million barrels of oil. Today, the Iranian economy is more than ever dependent on oil and gas. 80% of the government revenues, 80% come from oil and gas. Now the production is below 1 million. The capacity to produce is no more than 3 million, because they have failed to invest in the infrastructure. Oil is a very complicated technology. You need to constantly renovate it. You need to constantly bring in new technologies. The Minister of Oil just said last week that they need something like $100 billion of investment, $100 billion to bring the Iranian oil industry to international par. They ain't getting that if they continue on the nuclear program. They ain't getting that with the sanctions. So the key is now trying to find a solution that is agreeable to the international community and is sellable in Iran. Remember, this is a regime that has invested the entire economy on the enrichment program. It can't suddenly say, we're going to stop dead, we're going to dismantle everything, we're going to go back to another program. They can do it gradually, but they can't do it overnight. There are people in the United States and there are people in Iran who don't want this compromise to happen. Iran, there are people, there is a small minority who is making billions and billions of dollars out of the sanctions. The sanction regime has hurt the Iranian people, but it has made a very small minority multi-billionaires. I'll give you one name. Remember that name. Go Google him. His name is Babak Zanjani. Within the last 8 years, he has amassed a fortune of $19 billion. $19 $19 billion. Folks, if you become professors at MIT and Stanford and work for 30 years and save every penny you have saved, you'll make $6 or $7 million after 30 years. This guy, who doesn't even have a by some accounts, doesn't even have a high school degree, has made $19 billion in 8 years. All through efforts to bypass the sanction. Selling Iranian oil on the markets, international markets, under his own name, not giving Iran money. The government itself says, the government of Iran says $100 billion in revenues in the last 8 years, is lost. The way it's lost is exactly as I told you. They give me, for example, $2 billion worth of oil. They say, go sell it in the international spot market, put it in your own account, and we'll tell you how to do it. Because if they put it in Iran's central bank account, the US immediately freezes it. How many people have walked away with the money that they have sold? How many Babak Zanjanis are out there? We don't know. Let me give you another figure, and you get a sense of the cost. If you've been following Turkey's turmoil, the center of Turkey's turmoil recently is in Iran, actually. It is $87 billion money laundered through Turkey by Turkish authorities, including Turkish ministers and their children, $87 billion in the last 6 or 7 years. Why? Because they've been trying to circumvent the sanctions. Those who have made the $87 billion, those guys, and they're almost all guys in Iran. In Turkey, we have some women who have been involved. Those guys who made $87 billion don't want the sanction regime to end. That's their bread and butter. They are doing everything they can to undermine the recent agreements in Geneva. The radicals in Iran called the Geneva Accord the most shameful agreement in the modern history of Iran. That's how they refer to it. And what makes it suspect is in the last 48 hours, Khamenei, the leader, has been gingerly distancing himself from the agreement. Someone said that Khamenei, in a meeting, private meeting, has said, I don't see this agreement as guaranteeing Iran's right. Khamenei's office is now 72 hours later, hasn't yet denied that he made that statement. Somebody else has said Khamenei does not approve all the provisions of this agreement. That's a very dangerous premise that they're setting. So, as in 2 weeks, final rounds of negotiations will begin between the United States and P5+1, first in New York, then in Geneva, then in Vienna, the 3 places where the United Nations has nuclear facilities. It's going to be very, very complicated to see whether they can take this temporary transition and translate it into a permanent agreement. The sticking point clearly is going to be how much enrichment Iran is going to be allowed to have. I think Iranians have agreed to give up virtually all of their 20%. They're going to either oxidize it or dilute it or put it under very, very tight international control. They're thinking about exactly building the kinds of places where it would be impossible for Iran to sneak them out, for example, and use them for 90%. So my sense is that the outline of an agreement, at least, is give up 20%, don't start any new centrifuges. I don't think the idea of dismantling all the centrifuges has a prayer at all, and accept much more intrusive inspection by IAEA. I don't know whether you noticed, IAEA just asked for substantial increase for the budget for oversight of Iran's nuclear program. They're going to send twice as many inspectors as they now have. IAEA is about to set up a permanent office in Iran of inspectors. So Iran has virtually given them access to everything, things that they had never agreed on, access to scientists. Iran had never allowed it, access to sites that the IAEA was asking for. Iran is now willing to give it.